Let's look back at my 2025 Formula 1 predictions. Some of them I absolutely nailed, some of them not so much, and some of them were deeply embarrassing, okay? Let's bask in my lack of wheel knowledge, shall we? My name's Tomo. Let's talk about it. Starting with most improved, Liam Lawson. The Kiwi made a huge impression deputising. Well, that's wrong, isn't it? I am backing Liam to do a better job in that Red Bull, in that second car, the cursed seat, whatever you want to call it. A better job than Pierre, than Alex, and Sergio ever did. I mean, yeah. Oh, he got 2 Grand Prix. What can I say, right? As much as, yes, that sample size was terrible, Yuki's performances weren't much better. Again, it's hard to say for sure, right? Because, again, it's such a small sample size. Maybe Liam would have improved. I imagine he would have gotten better. Would he have done a better job than Yuki? Impossible to say, because Yuki's averaging 0.6 off of Max this season as well. So yeah, we'll just take the L on this one and move on, I think. Most disappointing, Aston Martin. I'm taking a big risk here because back in my 2021 predictions, I remember I put Fernando Alonso as my flop of the year, which aged awfully. However, it did result in a pretty funny thumbnail. Probably my favourite thumbnail I've ever done. That is a good thumbnail. Let's be real. That is a phenomenal thumbnail. They have been pretty disappointing. I mean, at least they finished P7. If Haas had beaten them to P7, this would have been a lock easy dub. It's still pretty good. P7 is still not good enough given the infrastructure, given where they are behind Racing Bulls, behind Williams, given where they should be. You look at McLaren's trajectory, not good enough. A frustrating year for Fernando. They need to give him more next year, way more. Crack and Fallows are out with all of this managerial and this technical change. This 2025 car is just gonna be the bare minimum. It's funny as well. I mentioned Crack and Fallow there, and there's been so much more upheaval. Obviously, Cal going and moving to a different department, should I say, and then Newey coming in as team principal as well. The upheaval continues. Closest teammates, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Come on. I'm drinking my tire bias Kool-Aid, okay? It's a prediction, so I'm not technically wrong yet. I think Alex Albon is going to hold himself very, very well against Carlos Sainz. Keep talking. I do. And I'm biased. Keep talking. And you're going to have to deal with that. It's been a tale of two halves, isn't it? Because obviously Alex was so strong at the start of the year. Carlos was so strong at the end of the year. And they've both had their ups. And, it's been a bit of a meme this year that no two Williams can have a good weekend. It has to be one or the other. But then in the end, they end up with barely any points between them in P8 and P9 in the Drivers' Championship. And the second closest head-to-head in qualifying. This is definitely a win from me. The comments were absolutely flaming me for this one, being like, Albon's going to be nowhere near Sainz. And as much as, again, the season didn't end well for Alex, he put in that work at the start of the year to consolidate his position. There you go. I mean, I've nailed this one. 100%, mate. Thank you very much. 2 out of 3 so far. Well done, me. Rookie of the year, Gabriel Bortoleto. With 6 rookies, at least full-time season debut rookies, obviously Behrman and Lawson. Right, I mean, Gabby, it's been a strong field this year, hasn't it, of rookies. Gabby's had his moments, certainly qualifying head-to-head relative to Nico. Was looking very strong at one point, then had a bit of a slump, didn't he? I wouldn't give him Rookie of the Year. I'm not going to say who yet. But I wouldn't give him Rookie of the Year. I'll save that for my actual season driver rankings next week, so make sure you subscribed to the channel, notification bell like this one as well, so that you don't miss that. But I do think Gabby carried himself very, very well, had some fantastic results, some great performances. Took a while to get going, but once he did, very good. I've got a lot of belief in this kid going forward. I'll give myself 2.5 out of 4 on those special categories at the start. But now let's get into the driver ranking list. Of course, we've had 21 drivers line up this year with Colapinto and Du, and of course sharing the Alpine. So I'm going to kind of blend them into one driver because they did finish 21st and 20th. So if one of them's predicted P20, then that's a point for me. P20, Jack Doohan. Look, this has most to do with the fact that I think Jack's going to get dropped way before the end of the season. Probably at some point in the first half. I believe in Jack. I think there is ability there. However, that Franco pressure, it's going to be too much. They've clearly played Williams a bag, and they're not going to pay a bag to another team, a direct rival, to let him sit on the sidelines. P19, Isaac Hadjar. I feel like Isaac Hadjar's 2025 season. Tomo, stinker. Absolute stinker. What is my justification here? Because I'm a mile off. Maybe by the end of the year. You know, 24 races is a lot of Grand Prix. You can develop a lot in that time. Maybe we'll start to see it because Isaac does have some raw talent, raw ability, raw speed there. Will we see it quick enough for him to not lose that seat to Arvid Lindblad? Because it feels like there's a lot more expectation and hope from Red Bull's point of view in Lindblad than there is in Hadjar. Plus, I think that Racing Bull's car is going to stink, which is going to help Isaac or Yuki's task at all. I just give them very, very little hope, and relative to the other teams, because it's always relative to the other teams, I just don't see them moving up. I only see them moving down, to be honest. That's a clanger in itself, that prediction. Racing Bull's going to stink, and Hadjar's only going to wake up towards the end of the year. My deepest apologies, Isaac. Stinker. Although Lindblad is now in a Racing Bull seat for 2026, so we did kind of call that one, but also, I mean, I'm not going to give myself credit for that because we all knew Lindblad was on his way. P18, Lance Stroll. Bad car, frustratingly inconsistent driver who clearly lacks motivation compared to most of the other drivers on the grid. A recipe for disaster. I think another poor season from Lance is on the horizon. So he was P16 in the end, was Lance. P18 was my prediction. It's not a horrific prediction. I mean, how many points? He was only joint with Yuki on 33 points, but Pierre Gasly, obviously, the Alpine was absolutely nowhere. So it's not the worst prediction in the world because it's ballpark where he finished, but it's not spot on. P17, Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki's talent definitely justifies being higher on this. Hang on. Yuki Tsunoda P17 is exactly correct with 33 points. Again, level with Lance Stroll. Obviously, I'm sure I'll explain here. I was assuming that was going to be all in a Racing Bulls car. Turns out he got that with most of the season in a Red Bull, which, yeah, it's not good enough, is it? Replacing Stroll at Aston Martin for 26 is the logical move for him, and he needs to showcase that he's not a rookie anymore. You know, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. He's been in the sport for a while now. He needs to show, right, you can rely on me, Aston Martin, alongside Fernando Alonso for 26. And instead, he's out of a seat entirely, which is sad. Is Aston his best opportunity to come back? Perhaps it is. Perhaps. Racing Bulls, P10 and last. Sorry, fans or enjoyers, but somebody's got to be there. That's a horrific prediction. P10 Racing Bull. I really did not back them for this year. Really did not. And turns out I was so wrong. P6, miles off. A mile off, Tomo. What is wrong with you, man? P16, Nico Hulkenberg. The first of the Saubers, and I'm going with Nico. He's wrong. Of course, podium this year for Hulk. Which helped big time. Joint P11 in the end with Hadjar. P15, Gabriel Bortoleto. I do think he'll outscore Nico Hulkenberg in 2025. The chance of nothing unlikely happening is itself unlikely, right? It just takes... I mean, that's a mile off. Bortoleto P19. P19 definitely doesn't reflect Bortoleto's season. I stand by that. And Hulkenberg being P11, like 51 points to Nico. 19 to Gabriel in the end. That doesn't reflect the head-to-head. Hulkenberg just executing, but also Bortoleto, I think, just having a bit more bad luck over the course of the season. Don't get me wrong, I think Nico was the better driver of the two. However, this is once again another L by a pretty sizable margin. P14, Fernando Alonso. Fernando is well known for getting performance out of any car. I mean, look, this is never about Fernando. This is all about the car. Also, I did predict Sauber P9, which was correct. So well done me for that. Let's hope I explain myself well for this. This year, just Fernando, focus on yourself. Focus on keeping yourself fresh and healthy and do what you can do in the races with the equipment you've got. If it's trash, then you bank the ATR, mate. And that's what Adrian's going to need to cook, okay? You're playing the long game here. You're going to beat Lance in your head-to-head, which means Aston Martin, I'm putting them P8s in the Constructors' Championship. Could have been in. I mean, P7, so only one position ahead of Haas, who I haven't predicted here yet. So not a mile off with Haas, Aston and Sauber in terms of their position, but of course, yes, Racing Bulls, nowhere near. P13, Esteban Ocon. Esteban's an absolute top racing driver. Where did Esteban finish in the end? 15. So, ballpark, he was only 3 points off of Ollie Behrman, who did finish in P13. So, not a terrible prediction. It's a ragtag small team. He's come from nothing. Like, his grow-up story is unbelievable, right? The fact he made it to F1's a miracle. And I really hope it works out for him. Ocon did suit Haas a bit better than he ever did at Alpine and had a good start to the year. Because he had that big wobble where Ollie was just beating him left, right and centre in qualifying, and that was really hurting Esteban. But I would say first half of the season, this prediction was looking pretty good. But as you can see, I've not predicted Behrman yet. So I did predict Behrman to finish ahead of Ocon in the driver standings. Where I predicted him, I can't remember. P12, Oliver Behrman. British bias alert, actually. That Chelmsford bias alert. Chelmsford bias is strong with this one, and I'm one position off here. So come on, that's pretty good. And I predicted Behrman ahead of Ocon, which is exactly what happened. And it was very close as well between the two of them. Only 3 points in the end, but Ollie got it done. Obviously, Esteban has way more experience in F1, which counts for a lot. But I've got a good feeling about Ollie. You know, he's going to have his prangs, he's going to have his moments, but I also think he's going to have some worldy performances. I really do. Which Ferrari are looking at him closely. I think that's pretty fair as an assessment of his season. He's had a few prangs, a few silly ones. Silverstone, Australia had a few too many incidents, maybe a lot of super license point penalties as well. His peaks have been very strong, arguably as strong as the next best rookie this year. P11, Carlos Sainz. Controversial take alert. Carlos Sainz is P11 in my 2025 F1 predictions, season predictions, whatever this video is called. And I haven't mentioned his teammate yet, which means I'm putting him behind Alex Albon. Look, cry about it in the comments. It helps with the video's engagement, okay? Carlos will bring... And you did cry about it in the comments, and you were wrong, because he did finish behind Alex Albon. However, I didn't predict this spot on. He finished P9 instead of P11. I'm still taking that as a half-point win, surely. Look, he leaves teams in better states than when he joins them, so... That's good. That's a very good omen for Williams. I think that relationship's going to thrive. I think they're going to do bits. It took a while to get going, but I think Carlos's move to Williams has been so beneficial for the team and also kind of for him looking at Ferrari struggles. Not going to lie. He's got 2 podiums. Lewis didn't get any. P10. Alex Albon. Look, I've already said they're going to be really closer than any other teammate pairing in Formula 1. So I've got to back my boy. I'm going to put him ahead of Carlos. Come on. Which I did back him, and he did finish ahead of Carlos, and he finished P8 in the end. I actually under-gassed up Alex. I should have gassed him up more. A fantastic start to his season. A very challenging end to his season. But either way, they were very close when you combine the entire season, all 24 races. They were very nip and tuck. You can do it, son. Please don't make me look silly. Alex wins the head-to-head against Carlos Sainz, but I'm not quite ready to reveal their constructor's position just yet. P9, Pierre Gasly. Oh. Now, if there's one name, man that gives me the belief that Pierre Gasly is going to be the best of the rest in Formula 1 in 2025, it's not Pierre himself, it's not Flavio Briatore, it's not Ollie Oaks, it's not Franco Colapinto. It's technical director David Sanchez. Go watch my video about David Sanchez. I think the Alpine power unit, I underestimated just how much that would hold the team back from realising the potential end stone, right? We know they'd touch it in at the end of the season. Pierre's Q3 rate in 2025 was still very good. Pierre definitely held up his end of the bargain. However, I definitely overestimated Alpine's ability to give him at least something to be somewhat competitive with. So I'll give myself a stinker here. And then from a constructor's point of view, Alpine, I'm putting them P6. Oh, you know what? Man, look at that. Look at that. Like Alpine and Racing Bulls and Hassan Aston. Okay. So I'm massively wrong with Alpine and Racing Bulls. Correct. Williams spot on. Sauber spot on. Hassan Aston Martin were pretty close. So this is some cope. I'll be honest. I'm coping here quite hard, but you got to look for the positives, haven't you? Come on now. At least I got the top 4 right. Just in what order? I can't remember. Although I remember enough to know that I'm not confident. P8, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. I have so many questions about Antonelli. This combo feels like the most difficult to predict, so it's probably a bit of a cop-out putting in P8, but that's what we're doing. And geez, the older I get, the more I look at these kids and think, 18 years old, I wouldn't have trusted myself to look after Minton, let alone the FW16 or whatever it is. I mean the W16, the FW16 is the Williams. Anyway, P7, Liam Lawson. I've already waxed lyrical about Liam. Oh God, yeah, I forgot that I hadn't. I was thinking to myself, why have I put Kimi P8? Who am I missing? I was like, oh no, I thought Liam Lawson was going to have a all right year with Red Bull. He did not.
Oh, dearie me.
I think it will improve significantly. That gap between him and Max will be way smaller than it was between Max and Checo. He certainly won't finish 285 points shy.
Hang on. You certainly won't finish 285 points shy. How many points shy did he finish in Max Verstappen? 421, take away 38. 383 points shy of Max Verstappen. Oh, dear. That's really bad. That's like really bad.
I reckon, my prediction, Lawson finishes within 100 points of Max Verstappen.
Oh my God, shut up. Shut up. Within 100 points. Times that by 3.83. And you've got it right, Tomo, so well done.
P6, George Russell. George had a big year in 24, showcased to me that he's already capable.
George Russell P6, he was actually P4 in the end. I underrated Mercedes season. Absolutely. That's a no-brainer, really. A massively underrated Mercedes season. They were second in the Constructors in the end, and clearly I have not predicted them to be second in the Constructors here, have I?
George will win races, more than one race. I'm very, very sure of
Which
that.
he did.
Are Mercedes going to be able to achieve that level of consistency that you can mount a title fight, right? You have to be up there all the time. You can't afford to have weekends where you're finishing P7 and 8.
It comes down to the Ferrari miscalculation, doesn't it? Massively here, right? I just didn't see George finishing ahead of both Ferraris, either Ferrari, given how Ferrari ended last season. And of course, it's been an absolute dumpster fire at Ferrari. So he did.
George wins the head-to-head with Kimi, meaning Mercedes are P4 in the Constructors' Championship.
Nope.
P5, Lewis Hamilton. Trying to predict where Lewis is going to finish in 2025 is tough. He'll be in a car that should be at least as good as the McLaren.
Oh, should be at least. Yes, it should have been. Why wasn't it? You look at Ferrari's end of last season relative to McLaren, it should have been. And it wasn't. And it was a massive letdown from Ferrari. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame. And
I've got very little doubt it's going to be McLaren, Ferrari going for it. And obviously the teams that get...
Very little doubt McLaren, Ferrari going for it. You should have doubted, Tomo. You were wrong. Of course you were wrong to trust Ferrari.
This is Ferrari's best opportunity for a driver's world title in a long time. Like a really, really long time. Even better, I think, than, Vettel's challenges in 17 and 18. So if any team's going to throw the absolute kitchen sink behind this season to get it done, it's Ferrari. But I don't think it's going to be Lewis. I do think he's lost his edge in qualifying. And it's super important in qualifying because the dirty air is only going to get dirtier. He's in a foreign car, foreign team, right, that he's never worked at before. Foreign, I don't just mean Italian, as in foreign, as in it's just not what he's used to. And he's against a driver in Charles Leclerc who I think is better than George Russell. He's well established in that Ferrari team. P5 is where I land.
That was the part of the season to have hope, and I didn't have a huge amount of hope for Lewis. And actually, again, in many metrics, in qualifying head-to-head, he was actually closer than I thought he'd be. He was within 2/10. I thought it'd be over 2/10 between the two of them. And combined with Ferrari's failures on their side, again, Lewis's struggles as well. It's been a season to forget.
P4, Max Verstappen. This sounds sacrilege, and of course it's no reflection on Max's ability. He is the best driver in Formula 1 right now and has been for a while. But Red Bull's development has stagnated.
I'll tell you what, this prediction wouldn't have been so bad after maybe Zandvoort. And then they just turned his car around and were able to find performance and bring some small upgrades to help Max be more competitive. The way things were going, Max could have, if the car hadn't moved forwards at all after Zandvoort and hadn't had Monza and Azerbaijan and all those opportunities open up, I think George could have finished ahead of Max and put Max in P4. But the resurgence was absolutely key and he almost won it all in the end.
Do I think he will still do amazing things and still be in that fight until the very end? I absolutely do. I could see the top four being within 50 points by the end of the season. I could see more than two drivers going into the finale at Abu Dhabi with a mathematical chance of winning the championship.
That's correct. That's now the protagonist might not be. There's some semblance of cooking going on here.
Which means Max wins the head-to-head against Liam Lawson and Red Bull will finish third in the Constructors.
That's correct.
P3, Lando Norris. Gave this a lot of thought. I did.
There we go.
But I'm saying Lando P3 in the 2025 F1 World Drivers' Championship.
Fine margins. Could have been P3. Was only 13 points ahead of Oscar Piastri in P3 in the end. But at the end of the day,
it was wrong. Qualifying, he's unbelievable. So good. Tyre management over a race distance.
He is.
Top tier. What I question is, does he have that winning mentality? The absolute determination to win at all costs that Lewis and Max and even drivers like George and obviously someone like Fernando, these drivers have demonstrated.
Now here I've questioned his approach, his mentality, his perspective, whatever you want to call it. And Lando's spoken about this post winning the championship. You know, he is glad he got it done his way. I would also say he made changes. He said this himself. You know, the way he was doing things at the start of the year was not working, and that he introduced some changes that have helped towards the end of the year. He's not been cutthroat. That's not come into his repertoire, I guess. It was, you know, ballsy elbows out move in Singapore. But other than that, you know, he's kept it very, very clean. The fact that he's won it proves that it is possible to win it with that style, that approach, right? If Lando was, which he isn't, but imagine he just drive with the exact same skill set, talent, but just had this more George Russell, Max Verstappen cutthroat mentality, would Lando have won the championship by more points? Would they have won it by less points because it's been a bit more risky and pushed boundaries and done themselves more damage? We will never know. Do I think it's a strength or a weakness relative to his competitors? Honestly, I don't know. I think in some ways it stands him in good stead and helps him. You have to do what works for you personally, not just what works for other people. And he certainly does that. But I still think there is a lot to be said for that cutthroat mentality. And I think why definitely most world champions prior to Lando, and I think most world champions in the future will have a much more cutthroat mentality for a reason. If Lando Norris does win in 2025, I would not be surprised, okay? He's got the minerals, he's got that raw speed, he's got that tyre management, okay? And if he can learn and implement changes from what went wrong last year into this year, he's absolutely in with a fight. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's going to happen. I said then I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not surprised. Like, he went the whole distance. He was hyper consistent, more podiums than anyone else all season. Has to speak volumes, really. And he got it done.
P2, Oscar Piastri. So I've put Oscar P2 ahead of Lando Norris.
Come on then.
The same Lando Norris that outqualified Oscar Piastri 24-6, including sprints, last year, outscored Oscar Piastri 374 to 292. I think that Lando and Oscar's peaks last year were pretty similarly impressive. I do.
Fair.
I think Oscar's performance at Baku was unbelievable, and I think Lando's performances at Singapore, the mistakes, right? But Zandvoort was a Max Verstappen-esque, right, domination. But of course, Lando was way more consistent than Oscar in delivering those peaks. The question I'm thinking is, what is more likely? Does Lando get on top of the cutting edge mentality he needs to win a world title? Or does Oscar get on top of the consistency that he needs to win a world title? There's great arguments on both sides, but I just think my prediction falls ever so slightly on the side of the Aussie.
Both were kind of true. I think Lando improved his approach, didn't go cutthroat. Granted, that was wrong, but improved what he already had. But also, Oscar massively stepped up the consistency. He led for more rounds than anyone else, right? That speaks volumes of consistency. He did so much right this year, that bad streak, which completely derailed his title fight. But when you look at 24 races in totality, it's a fair point.
P1, Charles Leclerc. No surprise if you've been watching my stuff. I'm predicting Charles Leclerc to win the 2025 F1 Drivers' World title. Ferrari should, over the course of this season, have the best, if not joint, if not second best car to McLaren. There's no excuses now. There's really not. And of the four drivers in those two teams, Charles, Lewis, Oscar, and Lando, I think Charles the best.
God, I just can't. I'm so disappointed in how things have turned out. Charles has been visibly very, very disappointed. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. Just Ferrari, please, man. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough.
I think it's Ferrari and Charles Leclerc's time to shine, and I think Charles is going to get it done, which means head-to-head wise, Charles Leclerc beats Lewis Hamilton, Constructors wise, with the 2 McLaren drivers on smoke,
at least
I think
I
they're
got
going to
that
be right behind Charles. I really do, both of them. Lewis isn't going to quite be able to hold up his end of the bargain, and therefore Ferrari will once again finish P2 in the Constructors Championship behind McLaren, back-to-back Constructors.
Right, that was a journey. I need to take stock. I'm going to do some graphics, look at how far off I was, visualize it all, and then we'll be back in a sec. My God, need a drink. Okay, 1 cheap glass of rosé I found in the back of the fridge later. And is this ever going to focus? Here we are. I've got a drink, and we're gonna do a post-mortem. Let's start with team standings because they're not quite so horrific. Of course, Mercedes and Ferrari, if you gave them a swap, Racing Bulls, Alpine, you gave them a swap, we're basically there. Again, look, Ferrari just massive disappointment this year. Mercedes actually seemed to get on top of some of their inconsistency. They were still inconsistent, don't get me wrong, but they could afford to be because, again, Red Bull, you only had 1 driver scoring, and Ferrari were being Ferrari. Alpine, I don't know, man. I feel like they did turn it around mid last season, but they just properly fell off. And I do think it was that PU disadvantage that was just hurting them more than ever, where the margins were so tight this year, especially in qualifying. And the fact that Pierre was still able to get the Q3s that he was able to get was kind of crazy work. But yes, Hadjar massively overperformed relative to expectation. Lawson, I think, massively overperformed relative to expectation as well, because they had a car that massively overperformed relative to my expectations. A very, very good job, especially Isaac. The car was very, very solid this year. Very few Grand Prix where it's completely off the pace. Maybe Abu Dhabi final race of the season. That springs to mind, but not many others other than that. They've been pretty consistently in the points this year. And then, of course, the driver standings. Where do we begin here? The biggest swings and misses, of course, are Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar. 9 places off with Gasly. Again, I backed him and I backed Alpine way too much. Hadjar, Lawson. It's mad that I got Tsunoda correct. It's mad that I got Tsunoda correct in P17 because he joined Red Bull after 2 Grand Prix, for crying out loud. So yeah, I there's only 2 wins there. The only 2 I got right were Dula Pinto at the back and then Tsunoda P17. Didn't get a single other one right. Obviously Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, Russell. The top 4 were correct, I guess. Oh wait, no, Leclerc. I forget about Charles Leclerc. I predicted him to win the title. This is just terrible. But we're going to do it all again. Don't you worry for 2026 because we never learn. And we've got even less to go on going into this new regulation cycle. So if I can get it this bad at the end of a regulation period, imagine how bad it's going to be at the start of one. Let me know in the comments below your best prediction, your maybe worst prediction that you remember thinking at the start of the season that did not come true. And again, like, subscribe, notification, all of that. If you want to watch me struggle all over again with my 2026 predictions, which I'll probably drop in January. Also, another reason to subscribe and get involved is that I'm doing my driver rankings very, very soon. The poll is live. Link down below. Go and rate every single driver from 10 perfect to 1 absolutely abjectly awful over the course of the 24 race season in 2025. Pleasure as always. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.